Okay, so forgive me, I have very limited working space. It took me forever to clean it up, and then I prepped some fabric to kind of show what I did for this hack and the pieces that I came up with. So what I changed is with the other hack that we had, there was two main pieces we needed. We needed a 13 high by 12 wide, which I did keep that piece, the one that you cut in half. And then initially you needed a 12 high by 10 wide, which you use half of that for the pocket. So I didn't need both halves of that, so I just did the one center piece that I needed, which was 12 inches high by 5 inches wide. So I kept that piece and I omitted the other half for now. And then I included some additional pieces. So first we have the 13 high by 12 wide. This one is not cut yet, so I just want to show you guys, like, this is that initial piece, 13 high, 12 across, and that needs to be cut in half for the original hack. So I will take my ruler and just prep this piece at 6 inches. Then that is cut in half into two pieces, the exact same size, and you put those wrong sides together. And then you take your main huge piece that has from Lynn's pattern, and we're gonna cut out our lay this over, line up the bottom. So that is my two side pieces that I have that are going to comprise my two sides. Okay, and then I have that other piece that we only used half of the initial what was called for, and that's going to be our center piece, and we're going to utilize, as was in the original pattern hack, you mark your centers on here and you kind of line up as best you can with the bottom and the tops, and you cut out your center. Little semicircle. Okay, then that is prepped, and I don't need this pattern piece anymore. So then when we look at them all together, we have our two sides and our middle piece. Okay, so this is the only parts that I'm going to be addressing and changing. The interior stays exactly the same as what it's called for in the initial pattern hack for this box bottom. So what I'm going to be working with first, and I have the amended pieces that I came up with to make it less bulky. Okay, so now that I have these pieces prepped, these are the pieces that I came up with to reduce bulk. I have my front main pocket, which is going to be the lower portion of this pocket, and the dimensions on that are 8 inches high by 5 inches wide. Okay, and then I have this piece is going to be my top, like 1.5 inch, but it's also gonna like fold in and be the inside of my slip pocket. Okay, so if you do have directional fabric when you're sewing this, you do have to be conscious of what way your fabric is going when you are placing this up top here. Now this does use a little bit more of like the main fabric. So if you're using a very expensive fabric and you don't really mind utilizing like just a plain color up top here to go into the pocket, that's completely fine too if you don't want to use the expensive fabric to line the pocket. But for me, I kind of like having this up top and go down into the pocket. And this piece is going to be 5 inches wide by what is it, 10.5 inches long. So 5 inches wide, 10.5 inches high. Sorry, I'm still like trying to read the sizing of the pieces. And then the only other new piece that I added is your interior of your pocket, which is all going to be one piece, and it's going to fold up and make your lining of your pocket. And this is going to be 13 high by 5 across, so 13 by 5. Okay, so now the additional pieces I made are the pocket interior that is going to fold in half and make your pocket, your front pocket piece, which is going to be your main front, and then the top 1.5 inch that goes in and lines your inside pocket. I'm going to start sewing this, and I'll show you guys how to do that. Okay, all right, so I'm going to put my 2 side pieces aside. We're not going to work with them right this second. We're going to be making our front pocket piece. So I have my zipper piece. I usually cut it about 6 inches, so I have a little extra to work with. I like to not end up coming up short with that. And then I'm going to have my mid pocket pieces right here. Okay, so we're gonna do our zipper sandwich. I'm not gonna put my pull on yet, I'll put it on at the end. And we're gonna place that down, and then the pocket lining is gonna go right on top here, and we're gonna clip that together. And I try to keep them as lined up as good as I can for the most part, but it all seems to take a look at it. And then I take my pieces and I'm gonna flatten them out so that I can top stitch these pieces. And the top stitch. Okay, so with that connected on the front and the lining on the back, you then bring this up behind and you're just gonna baste it on the top and try to keep it as even as possible as the pocket. And just a little base stitch, nothing crazy, just so it stays in place when you're doing the other. All right, so now you have this in your front. This is your interior pocket lining. connected to your zipper. Now we're going to take our top pocket piece, this one, and since I have a directional print, I am going to want to go this way with the top here so that it sits like that and goes into the pocket. So I'm going to attach it to the bottom here and make sure to line up as best as we can with where we have everything so far. And then we are going to attach that to the zipper at the top. And then we're going to flatten that out. Up top, and we are going to top stitch. Make it real pretty. And take it to the machine, and I'm going to top stitch right up there. Okay, so I have top stitched, and then I'm going to take my longer piece, I'm going to fold it over at the top, and that gives us that top part. Now, I like to do about 1.5 inches up top there. So I am going to measure, and this I just try to get as straight as possible. So and if you want, you can draw a line across at 1.5 inches. I usually just approximate as long as the sides are the same, which just looks pretty good. A little bit higher on this side. And I also will down the back and just make sure that that's kind of even. So once you have it, when you feel like it's pretty even, I usually just clip to kind of keep it from moving around, and front will look like this, and back will look like this. It doesn't have to come all the way down to the bottom. If you want to make it a little longer, you can, but we're going to stitch to close the pocket, so we don't have to worry about that. And you do have a little leeway on this top part to make it a little smaller if you want. I'm just going based off of the original hack and around the size that it was. So I'm going to do a top stitch on this top. Okay, so then this is what it will look like. We have the top stitching all up there. This is sealed like this, so it's in place, and it's going to make our pocket. All right, so at this point where we have this put together, we're going to put our zipper pull on. Do not forget that, because the next step we're going to be sealing off the zip. So we need to have this pull on here now. And let me see, this is going to go on easily. Not so bad, could have been worse. Okay, now, all right, at this point in time, we put our zipper pull on because we are going to attach this piece to the centerpiece, and it's going to seal off our zip. So you have a little bit of leeway here. If something matches up nicely and you want to move this down a little bit, you can have a little bit of leeway here and there. I wouldn't go too much, but if you have something that lines up beautifully and you want to like make it a little lower, you can just trim the excess at the bottom. But I'm just going to line it up because mine does not have anything that I can change or line up differently. So I'm going to clip these on the side, and then we're just going to baste up each side, actually down. I prefer to go from the top on this piece because sometimes this can get a little wonky when you get towards the top. So I like to keep it nice and flat and straight and start at the top when stitching this. So I'm going to just do a basting stitch down each side, about 1/8 of an inch. Use your best judgment, whatever, as long as you're catching all your fabric and your zip. That's the most important thing. And I don't even go across the bottom. I just go down each side. You don't have to do the bottom. We're gonna stitch that off anyway and close that. So I just go down to the bottom on one side, and then we're going to go from the top down on the other side. Try to keep this as even as possible and as flat as possible. And just baste down this side. Okay. Now we are almost completely done our front slip pocket with our enclosed zipper pocket. We have this is closed, but this is still open here, right here. So we are going to just measure up two and a quarter inches, and I just usually take one of my marking pencils and draw a straight line across. And then we are just going to do a top stitch right across. I like to put it where I can see my line. And I'm just going to go straight line across. And what this is doing is just closing off that slip pocket, because even though once we attach it to our other panels on the front, it would close, things could slide down underneath into the bottom of the bag. We don't want that to happen, so we're just going to make this very pretty stitch across and close that off. Now this came together really nicely. I don't even think I really have to trim anything. Maybe just the zip a little bit. Where's my big scissors? So what I'll do is I'll just trim the sides of the zip, just straighten them out a little bit. And then I'm just going to seal them with, just burn them off so they don't fray. Okay. All right, so that is completely done. And we are sealed here. And then we are going to take our side pieces. So we remember from the original pattern, we have to have it like this and like this. So we are going to we are going to line up at the bottom, and we're going to clip up the side. I don't use a lot of clips. They just get on my nerves. I try to keep things as straight as possible with them, but I don't use a ton of them unless I absolutely have to. And we are going to stitch up about like 1/4 of an inch should be fine. So now if we look at this, we should be just like that, okay? And then I like to just connect my other side before I do my top stitching. So I'm going to connect my other side, line it up at the bottom, pin or clippy, and keep it as straight as possible. And go from the bottom up about 1/4 of an inch. Just make sure you're on your other side of your previous basting stitch so that doesn't show through when you straighten it out and top stitch. Usually about 1/4 of an inch is good. Then what we are going to do is we're going to flatten out each side, and we are going to do our top stitching. So we're going to flatten and make sure that you're going to be stitching to there, and you're just going to top stitch each side. Okay, and then this is where we are at. We have pretty much our whole outside piece. We just have to close it and box the bottoms. But you have your top stitching on each side. You have your enclosed zipper pocket. You have your slip pocket that is closed. And then we are going to attach. Now you can see how easy this is to bend. It's very pliable. We're going to, not a lot of bulk at all, and I love it. We're going to attach our backs together. And we are going to sew up about 1/4 of an inch. Close this, make our little piece. just going to mark our center part, the front, a little notch. And then we are going to attach that. And this is the exact same process as boxing it in the original hack. So I have done everything that I have changed on it. I do everything else exactly the same measurements and everything. I believe the boxing is, let me just flatten this out. And clip this. And it's just going to be boxing the corners at it's going to be 1.75 inches high by 1.5 inches wide. So 1.7 by 1.5. And I'm going to just draw my little box. One and a half, 1 3/4. And no matter how much I make these exactly on where they're supposed to be, I swear to God, they never ever line up. Okay, so I've cut out my boxes on each side, and I am going to sew across the bottom 1/4 inch. Okay, so I have my sides pinched together with my bulk of my pocket being pushed towards the back so that it sits correctly. I'm just going to sew 1/4 inch across that bottom. I think this is probably the bulkiest part, is just that bulky corner, but my machine does not have a problem getting through it, and I do not have to use a hump jumper, which I had to use with the other hack. So I hate hump jumpers, and my stitching never looks right when I have to use them. I mean, does it really matter? I don't know, but I like my stuff to look nice. Even though I use a domestic, I mean, the stitching isn't always perfect, not like it would be with a industrial or whatever, but I want it to look nice, at least, as much as I can. There might be like different stitching lengths because of bulk and such, and it slows down, but I try to make it as consistent as possible, especially with my top stitching, because that is what, you know, people look at, and that's what people are going to see. So I try to keep my bottom part as flat as possible, and then make sure that this bulky spot is down the way I want it. Okay, so let's see. Let's take a look at our finished product and see how it turned out. I always trim this because, well, I don't like a lot of extra bulk, so I will trim a little. this edge here. I don't care. Okay. So let's turn this right side out and see what it looks like. It's so easy to turn. Not a lot of bulk. I just push out the corners. Push out my corners, not a one little bulky spot. If you just get in there and kind of push them out with your finger or your scissors or whatever will get up in there and work well. This back corner is perfectly beautiful. I got a couple threads sticking out, which is annoying. Okay, so that is my outer box hack with less bulk. Looks very nice. Interior pocket. You have your main fabric inside completely, and then this little pocket, your zip pocket, you have your waterproof canvas, and then it is ready for the lining. But I like the way this comes together. I think it sits very nicely, and less bulk. That's my favorite part. So hopefully that was not too confusing. Any questions I can try and help answer. But yeah.